Okay, welcome back. We are in the heart of a very interesting story in Matthew chapter 15, where Jesus just completely ignores a woman who has a daughter who's demon possessed. It doesn't seem like he cares in the least about her because he's just ignoring her. We read in Matthew chapter 15 and verse number 23, as she's crying out, he did not answer her a word. And Jesus' disciples didn't seem to be very compassionate. Of course, we know historically that Jewish people were prejudiced against non-Jews, against Gentiles and so forth. They had nothing to do with Gentiles for the most part. And they looked down at them because they looked at them as pagan, unclean, wicked people, which is true and many times. Many times the Jews had no right to make those kind of judgments because they had the log in their eye, of course, but that's a whole nother story. But look in verse number 23 again. He did not answer her a word, and then keep reading. And his disciples came and implored him, saying, "Send her away, because she keeps shouting at us." So you get the picture of Jesus and the disciples walking along, and then this woman following, behind and continually shouting out, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David, my daughter is cruelly demon-possessed." He's just acting as if she's not there. And the disciples complain to Jesus as if she's bothering us. They don't care. You wish that one of them would have said, "Hey, Jesus, can we help this lady? I mean, we've helped a lot of people here. Cast out demons and so forth. That's not a difficult thing for you." But they probably didn't have any compassion on her because they figured, yeah, she's a Gentile. Who cares? Who cares about her little daughter who's got a demon? But we keep on reading, and verse number 24, Jesus gives some indication as to why he was ignoring her. He answered and said, he wasn't talking to her now. He was talking to the disciples. "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." And so essentially, on face value, it seems like what he's saying is, you don't qualify. I'm here to help the lost sheep. I was sent. That's my mission. That's why God the Father sent me. You're not in that category. Now, we know, of course, who have looked at some of these other stories, Jesus wasn't consistent in that. He healed a centurion's servant one time, a Roman centurion's servant. Okay, so there's a case of doing something for a Gentile, and there are other instances. We know, of course, that Jesus died for the sins of everyone, Jew and Gentile, and so we wouldn't want to take that little phrase right there and make that the sum total of what we believe about Jesus's mission. Right? And we also know that in the end, he granted her request. And so if God had said to him, the Father had said to him, "Don't do anything for any Gentiles," well, then that would have been a sin for Jesus to have done something for a Gentile. And so I think we interpret this as saying, hey, basically, I have come to minister to Jews, but that doesn't rule out some ministry to Gentiles. We're going to get to them later. In fact, we're going to send some apostles specifically to go preach the gospel to the Gentiles. And there's going to be a huge revival, and eventually the church is going to be predominantly Gentile. Okay, but for right now, we're going to try to reach the Jews first. Now, she probably knew something about the history of her people. She knew that the Jews, God had sent them, to invade their homeland and dispossess them and slaughter her ancestors and so forth. She knew they had a law. She knew that Jesus was performing miracles. She had enough sense to call him Lord and Son of David. So forth. So I don't know. I speculate a little bit, but I think when she heard, he was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, maybe that got her thinking, wait a second, you come to rescue the lost sheep. That's what you're doing. There's an intimation of mercy there. Your sheep are lost in Israel, and you've come to find them. And the way you find them is by calling them to repentance and getting them to, come back, as it were, to a right relationship with God by responding to your preaching. Okay, I don't know. I could just be pure speculation here. But again, we know the end of the story, right? We know the end of the story, and her daughter was delivered. And I think we also begin to see a progression of the change of her attitude. She's chasing after them, calling out, Jesus ignoring her. And look at verse number 25. But she came and began to bow down before him, saying, Lord, help me. Well, she's no longer standing. Now she's bowing before him. And she's just desperate. She so desperately wants her daughter to be delivered. And you think, well, this is going to touch the Lord's heart. Well, anybody can bow. Anybody can be desperate. But is that the proof positive of somebody's change of heart, that they've turned to the Lord and they're turning from their wicked ways? Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. And then Jesus apparently throws now what looks like to us this gigantic insult. Verse number 26, he answered and said, it is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. So it's an elaboration of what he said before. I was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I'm not here for Gentiles. I'm not going to take the children's bread and give it to the dogs. Oh my goodness. Now, one commentator or so has pointed out that in the original languages, the word for dogs there doesn't refer to a wild dog. It refers to a pet dog or a nice little dog. And so by telling us that, they're hoping to make us think that this is really not quite as harsh as it sounds, okay? Something to think about. Was it a pet dog or wild dog? What was he saying here? Well, we're out of time. So I'll see you next time.
HeavenWord 7 is made possible by the financial support of viewers like you. Thank you.